Cheech's Dees Fest Family Music Festival, now in its fourth year, is taking place July 28th through 30th at Bluebird Campground. 27 bands over 3 days, including Greg Hall and the Wrecking Ball with Nicholas David, the White Iron Band, and Feeding Leroy. Learn more at greghallmusic.com. People's Food Co-op is your neighborhood grocery store, owned by 12,000 of your friends and neighbors. They serve high-quality foods, natural products, and support local farmers, featuring organic produce, meat and seafood, house-made bakery, deli, and more. You don't have to be an owner to shop. Learn more at www.pfc.coop. The Prairie Dog Blues Fest is coming up, July 27th through the 29th, held on St. Ferial Island right on the Mississippi River. Blues and roots music from Chicago blues to West Coast drum, Mississippi Hill country blues, New Orleans horns, and Texas boogie to blues rock. Get tickets and on-site camping at prairiedogblues.com. Prevention is the key to a healthy life. That's why Gunderson Health encourages you to learn about vaccines and how they can help you and your loved ones stay healthy. Vaccines protect against preventable diseases and viruses by boosting your body's defenses. Visit GundersonHealthFacts.com to learn more. We connect with guitar virtuoso Paulie Matushek. We learn about his first time picking up a guitar, influences, looping, playing with the People Brothers Band, Driftless Music Gardens, and more. Check out Paulie live at Cheech's Dees Fest Family Music Festival, July 28th through the 30th. Listen to our podcast at lacrosselocal.com or your preferred podcast app. I'm Amy.
And I'm Brent.
And this is Lacrosse Local.
You got me, baby. You grab me like you should.
See, I was born at Gunderson in La Crosse, 1975. But I grew up in Holmen. That's where I went to school. But my dad, although he wasn't a virtuoso on guitar, he was a musician that gigged in the 60s and early 70s. And he was a gearhead. So there's a bunch of gear I grew up with in the house, including the big red Gibson 1965 ES345 that I still play today. That was the guitar sitting in the living room. So when I was, as far as I can remember, there's been guitar sitting there, and I was drawn to it immediately. So that's where that kind of started. It wasn't, my dad didn't really push it on me. I just was drawn to it. And there's a big Fender amp and speakers in the house. So like I'd plug it in and make noise. And then when I was 6, for a birthday present, they got me guitar lessons from, and I was lucky as hell because I went to a place called Larry's Music, which then became SSE Music later on. But the guitar teacher I got was Clay Reines. I don't know if you're familiar with him in the local area, but he is a phenomenal guitar player, a fiddle player, mandolin player, and he was really fun, awesome dude, and made playing guitar really fun. So I took lessons from him until I was like 18 years old, from 6 years old to 18. The other thing that really drew me in, my first love, was Ace Frehley from Kiss when I was like 6 years old too. So because of Ace, I wanted to play the guitar. And then later on I moved in, I graduated into Jimi Hendrix and Led Zeppelin and the blues and stuff like that. I was really into hard music, and I formed a band with a few bandmates called Reptane Love Machine. And that was in 1993, I believe, and we played regularly at the Warehouse. And then so I started my first professional gigs being there at the Warehouse on and off for probably like 96. And then I joined a few other bands. The first main one was called Whippoorwill Secret, which was the electric bluegrass band. That was like 97, 98, and we played till like 2003 with the likes of Greg Mardak, Ryan Connup, Guy Bolden, Brent Brown was in that, Kip Roach was in that for a while. And then I had another band with Dave Armstrong called Telefucking U47, and we were kind of like Zappa. So that's what happened then. That moved us into the early 2000s. I had a traditional bluegrass band called Stumbleweed that we played around a microphone like you see everyone doing nowadays. We were doing that back in 2000, 2003. Fast forward to a band called Bed. We played together in La Crosse and around the area for like 2003, 2004, and that's where I started playing with Nick Lonzel and Ryan Torgeson. And then we went back and reformed Moon Boot Posse. in like 2008. That one's still on the table. We're just on a little hiatus right now. Still, I have a band called Some Chunk, and that's with Nick Lonzel and Mark Smith, jam band in La Crosse kind of thing. Otherwise, I moved to Madison in 2015 for my wife, her job, Maureen McCollum. She works with WPR, and so we moved to Madison for that. And I joined the People Brothers band, and that's been a phenomenal experience, and I love it. And that's where we are today.
So I
That
mean,
cover the bases?
I think we're done. I'll see you later.
Yeah.
So for when I know you most from, I know a lot of those different bands you're talking about, but from, you doing it solo. So you're playing kind of solo at D-Fest this year. So kind of going back to like, your style that I've probably seen you the most as, with the looping and, usually solo. What was the origin for starting that? Was that just because you're tired of all these bands, or it was just another outlet for you?
Kinda. Well, what happened was I got probably like in 2000, 2001, I heard of these looping pedals, and I got my first one, which is a Line 6, and you could record yourself for like 13 seconds on there and play back and loop and build on it. And I thought that was pretty cool. And then I saw this guy play called Keller Williams, and he basically does the looping style that I copied him. I thought it blew my mind. It's like, I think I can do that. And I was very fortunate because the Popcorn Tavern gave me a residency for every Tuesday night. And I did that for like 13 years. And I don't know how many looper dudes out there have had that opportunity to play live on stage every week like that for 13 years straight. So because of that, I crashed and burned so many different ways. I figured it out that way, the hard way. I was like, oh, don't ever do that again. No, that didn't work at all. But because of that, I got a great opportunity. I really honed it in, I think, pretty well. And it's so fun because being alone on stage with the ability to jam with myself has really led me to spots I'll never reach or find with a band with other people. And it's a surprise every night for myself. I don't know what's going to happen, and all of a sudden I'll just loop something randomly and then build on that, and I learn something new, and I'm in outer space at those points, and I just love it. And I feel for the audience because they really put up with some wacky stuff sometimes. Thank you, audience, for your patience.
So I recently saw you in La Crosse with the People Brothers band, and it was just a phenomenal show.
Thank you.
You guys also had a new album coming out. I mean, I think it came out that day pretty much, Sisters and Brothers. Do you collaborate on all that? Is that, I mean, you've kind of worked yourself into that band, and
the way everything works there is pretty much everyone in the band is a songwriter, and everyone does it in a different manner. Like when I write a song, I typically write a whole complete song, everything meticulously complete. And then other people in the band they have some vague ideas, and then we bring it into practice and we all swirl it together and write. So it's pretty phenomenal that I think it's the only band I've been in where we come up with songs actually as a whole group. Someone starts riffing on something, and then I'll come up with a guitar riff to throw on it, and then we need a different part here, and someone what about this? And then before you know it, after 2 practices, we got one heck of a song. And then depending on who's singing it, or sometimes different people will write the lyrics for that too. So, or Teresa will go ahead and have an idea and she'll hum it out. And someone will write down what she's humming, like, these are the chords that you're humming, and she writes all the lyrics. So it's a real collaboration in that band.
And that's another thing. It's like, I see you guys, I'm pretty sure it's, a real connection between, I mean, I believe you're like the house band, and, people in that group also run Driftless Music Garden. What's that sort of relationship like, being able to play those sort of shows?
Oh, it's really something. Driftless Music Gardens has replaced it as my favorite festival spot. The vibe there is phenomenal. It's the most communal thing I've felt. And with the band being the ownership of that place, it really brings a lot more care and love into that sequence. And then when it's so much of a community with everyone else, the volunteers and the friends that are involved, that so many people have a hat in the ring. There's a lot of people that involve that care, and you can feel the care. So then when you build the stage and you get up and the lights are going, and everything. There's just such a one unit vibe out there that is through it all, and all the bands hang out and care for each other. And it's more than just like going to a festival and people getting their recreation on and like swilling around seeing band. It's a really one vibe unit there that everyone takes care of everyone. Yeah, it's there's even music on Saturday morning for kids starting at something like 10 in the morning. And I usually end up camping right there, so I like wake up on my back, my eyes like open up, and I see the inside of my tent, and I hear this kind of silly kids music playing, and kids running all around my tent.
So what are you listening to right now? Is there any albums you're spinning?
I mean, here at work, I always put on the 70s funk station, so I've been hearing a lot of that. The fun thing about that is I'm hearing all the music that Dr. Dre rapped over. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know that was an original part, and it's not all funkadelic. Otherwise, there's always, what did I listen to the other day? I actually put on an old Marty Robbins. But I always like guitar-driven funk more than anything else. There's a new I'm a big fan of a band called Gentle Giant from the 70s, a big, sweet, like Swedish prog band. But I realized I've only listened to like 3 of their albums, so I put on their 1978 album. Pretty interesting stuff. But it's all very eclectic for me. And then, Iron Maiden, put on Power Slave or Seventh Son of a Seventh Son. So it's all over the place. I love Tina Turner. I love Iron Maiden. As long as it's good, I like it.
That's awesome. So I know you have probably a packed summer here. If people want to follow along, I know you got a Facebook page for just, Paulie as yourself. What's the best avenue for people to find out more information?
Oh, that's a good one. Otherwise, the peoplebrothers.com has all of those shows. That's really probably the best way. Get on. There's an emailer you can get on for the People Brothers Band too, and the Driftless Music Garden. So you get emails with all the updates and the pre-sale stuff. Otherwise, just keep your eyes peeled for Paul on social media to get your latest Paulie news.
Awesome. Well, thanks for chatting with me.
You betcha.
La Crosse Local Podcast is a production of River Travel Media. Do you have an interview idea you'd like to share with us? Message us on Facebook at La Crosse Local. Find out more about us at lacrosselocal.com, and you can subscribe to the La Crosse Local Podcast on your favorite podcast app. If you like us, rate us 5 stars. We appreciate it.